This here's your battery. This is what starts your car. Sometimes they have a wrap, sometimes they have a cover. In some vehicles, they're underneath your back seat or in your trunk. So usually your owner's manual is your best friend. It will tell you generals like that. So it'll tell you where your location needs to be. If you have to jump a vehicle, like because it's a dead battery, make sure you have a general understanding. There's a negative and a positive, obviously. Even something as simple as putting like jumper cables on here and the other ends touching on the ground can make it jump or spark. Not necessarily what you want. So you want to make sure your battery is held down. If it's not held down, it's not good. I know these are just held in by a bungee cord by this customer. But usually there's a metal clamp down below. Another reason why you want to undercoat, because then at least you can get your bolts in and out a little easier. This here is your fuse box. They're not always in the same spot on your car. Usually you have one in your car and you have one outside, like one in your car, like by your dash area, and then you have one under the hood. So this is helpful, for example, if you have a cigarette lighter or your 12 volt is not working, you can usually pop it off, and it will have a map on it and such. Your owner's manual is super handy for that, because not always are they labeled what they are, or they're in short form, or something that doesn't exactly help you figure out what you need. So you go to your owner's manual and you can look up fuse panels, and you can actually look up the cigarette lighter, and it might say it's under the DEF FOG fuse, and then you can take a look. And really, most of them come with a fuse puller. They're in an empty spot, and you just pull them out, and then you just pop them out. It's actually really handy. So what you're looking for a fuse, should this happen to you and you want to know, these things here are relays, so you don't ever want to touch them. They have to be diagnosed by a professional. So here is, there's like 3 types of fuses. These one you can just look through the clear cover. This is not going to show you super well, but basically you want to make sure that there is no breaks in the metal. And the other mini fuses, when you pull them out, you just want to take a look through the side, and you can see like there's a little metal horseshoe. Make sure that it's still intact. And if it isn't, you can replace it. Fuses are pretty cheap. There is a possibility that it may blow again, and basically that means that there is something wrong with the wiring system of that fuse, and that will more than likely need to be diagnosed properly. Right here is your air filter is inside here. These little clips pop off. Every car is different, but usually you can find it because it'll be some sort of tubing that goes to the engine. This here is the intake where all the air goes to, and then the air is fed to each of your cylinders. So usually if an air filter is something that you can change yourself, and it's recommended to change if it's, there's a kilometer, and it varies from engine or vehicle to vehicle, which you can find in your owner's manual. Or you can just check it and make sure that it's not absolutely filthy dirty, especially if you live in a dirty, dusty climate. So moving on, this back here is your brake fluid. It'll have a whole bunch of warnings on top about only using a specific .3 brake fluid. That's important because it takes heat and it takes all the pressure that your brake system runs at. There'll be a level indicator on here. It tells you how high or low it is and all that lovely jazz. So now we're going to go to the front of the vehicle. Right down here, this is actually the AC condenser. This runs your air conditioning. And right directly behind it is the rad. You can't see it, but it looks very similar. And that holds all your coolant, your antifreeze, and what keeps your engine cool. Okay, so I'll go back here for a second. This is basically the motor. I'm just going to go generally over like things that you can look at to make sure that they're in okay condition. These here are like rubber lines. You'll find them all over the place. Some vehicles have more than others. Basically, you just want to make sure that they're not cracked, they're not worn, they're not split. Because you can have vacuum leaks and your engine can run poorly because of it. Like here's another one right here. You just want to make sure that they look healthy. So here, these blue wires are your spark plug wires. Some vehicles have, like this is your coil pack. Some vehicles have a coil on each cylinder. So this is a 6-cylinder. So there's 3 in the back, 3 in the front. So basically, they either have wires like this with your coil pack, which is basically your coil pack controls it. The computer in your car tells it exactly when to fire. And then it sends electricity up in here. Down in this, at the other end of this boot, is your spark plug, which actually ignites in your cylinder. So you want to make sure that these are the same thing as your vacuum lines, that they're not cracked or deteriorating. And sometimes if you pop your hood in the middle of the night or when it's dark out and you check it with the lights off running, you can sometimes, if they're bad, you'll know because it's running really poorly, and sometimes they'll do that worse when it's wet out. Then you can see sparks, and you definitely need to change. Here is your oil fill. If you do spill, it will go on your manifold and will smoke. Most people, that's okay, because your car's not on fire. So here is where your coolant is, like it's overflow. These caps, don't open them unless it's freezing cold. This one has two. A lot of imports will do that. So basically, you just want to check the side of this and see where the level is. It should be half because it'll rise and lower depending on how hot and how cold it is. Sometimes these are right on the rad, and then these are just screw-off pops. So it's best always to try to check this and do it when it's not hot. You will burn yourself. It will fly off. It's under a lot of pressure. So right here, and all these things are in different locations on your vehicle. Every single one of them are different. So this is your windshield washer fluid. Just fill it up. Sometimes they have a little level that'll float up. So right here is your power steering fluid. Some of them are clear and you can see it side. Sometimes they get really dark fluid. But anyway, some of them you just unscrew them and they have like a little mini dipstick on them. Okay, down in here, this is kind of the front of the engine, even though it's in sideways. But usually they'll be here. This one's way down below, so it's going to be really hard to see. But there's a belt, and you want to check to make sure that it doesn't have cracks, because cracks means it's getting weak and it could break on you on the road. Here's your oil dipstick. I recommend checking often. A lot of people don't know, not necessarily on new vehicles, but on vehicles with any kind of kilometers on them, or miles, they will start to use a little bit of oil, and you're not necessarily going to be able to prevent this. If you do good maintenance, you won't have a huge problem, but sometimes they just go through it, whether it be small leaks in the engine. Obviously, like this one has a little bit of a leak on that valve cover. This is the valve cover. So they do seep sometimes. It's not a horrible thing, but you do need to keep an eye on it. And by checking your oil level, you will. Most engines that are passengers, by that I mean like most cars and most like light trucks, have anywhere between like 4 to 5 liters of oil. Trucks will take more. So I always recommend kind of checking and knowing how much it uses. That way, if anything changes drastically, you know you're on top of it right away. Okay, so hopefully I've answered most of your questions. I know they're fairly basic, but you got to start somewhere, and that's the best way too. So I will be back teaching more and showing you more about your car. But for right now, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.